Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me on another episode of Ask Sharifah. I just want to thank everyone for all of your support, so all of your participation. Everyone has been so wonderful. People have been tuning in from all over the world. People have been asking questions, and our guests have just been so wonderful. And so, as always, I would love for you to share this video. We're live, and our guests are taking their time to be able to answer some of your questions. And I always say, friends don't let friends miss out on Ask Sharifah. So you definitely want to go ahead and share this video. And not only that, you want to get your questions ready because our guest today is prepared to answer your questions. So before I bring on our guest, I want to make sure everyone has enough time to go ahead and to be able to share the video. Okay, get your questions ready. Join us in the chat room because our guest today is Mr. Gregg Lederman. And Lederman talks about leadership and employee engagement. He has had a New York bestseller and he also has his third book out. Good afternoon, Gregg. Thank you for joining us on Ask Sharifah.
Nice to see you, Sharifah. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you are so welcome. It is my pleasure. I just last week, I can't even remember what day now, but last week I just launched my own book. My book came out, Signs You Might Be an Entrepreneur, How to Discover the Entrepreneur in You. It's on AskSharifah.com. It's on Amazon Kindle. And so I'm excited. And whenever I do something, I go to the experts. I always want to know how you did it, how to do it. Just like all our viewers, we want to know the people who have done it. So I'm not going to ask you just yet how to become a New York bestseller. First, we're going to allow people to come in and join us in the chat room, but we're going to give you the opportunity to tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got your start.
Well, I got my start, over 20 years ago in the bakery and ice cream business. And that's where I learned firsthand how you can really delight customers with an engaged workforce. This was back before the term engagement was something that was used in the workplace. But if you take care of your employees, they'll take care of your customers. So after building and selling a bakery and ice cream distribution and retail business, I decided to help other companies do the same thing that I was able to do with my partner in that business. From there, I started a company called Brand Integrity. The idea of brand integrity was you achieve it when you are who you say you are. It's the whole concept was for a consulting business, but very quickly turned into a employee engagement software business with consulting services wrapped around it. Built that business up over a 17-year period of time and sold it last summer to Reward Gateway, which is a global employee engagement company. And during that time, I skipped over a whole lot of things. I've produced 3 books and have a professional speaking career. That's what I use to leverage the speaking platform in the books in order to help grow the businesses. So
one of the things that you mentioned,
that's 25 years in 30 seconds.
I know that feeling. I built my first website in 1994, so I definitely understand. But one of the things that you mentioned is way back then, you were really focused on employee engagement. Before it was even a buzzword or trending, you focused on employee engagement. One of the people that I really admire is Richard Branson. And one of the things that Richard Branson says is basically the same thing. If you make your employees happy, they will make your customers happy. But there are also a lot of business owners and top corporations that don't necessarily agree with this philosophy, or at least actively practice this philosophy. Over 25 years ago, 20 years ago, what made you just really understand that employee engagement was the key?
Well, to Richard Branson's comment, I don't think companies don't believe it. They just don't know how to do it, would be my take on 20 plus years of consulting with leading organizations. For me, it started back in 2002. I got my first paid speaking engagement, showed up at a conference called for the Association of Independent Trust Companies in San Diego, California. And the 8GO was the name of the organization. And I went there with my opening slide that I thought I was just going to shock these people because a new study had come out from Gallup. It was their first year or second year maybe doing these studies called employee engagement. And they were reporting that 2/3 of the work environment in America is not engaged or actively disengaged. And this is 18 years ago, right? And I put that up on the screen, and I was expecting the audience to just be completely wowed by this, or scared, or somewhere in between. And they kind of stared at me with blank stares, like they didn't even know what that meant. So I said, okay, well, think about it a different way. It's an energy crisis, but not the kind of energy crisis that just pops into your brain when I say energy crisis. It's a human energy crisis. You're paying employees. In return, you expect a certain amount of energy. You're only getting about 2/3 of that, I told them. And then that piqued their attention, being a bunch of financial services people in the room. And what's been really interesting is just watching how that number, that 2/3 of people disengaged or actively disengaged, has pretty much stayed the same, plus or minus a few percentage points, over 18 straight years. Gallup's last study was over 31 million respondents, and the number has barely budged. However, companies are spending a fortune to try to improve employee wellness and satisfaction and engagement and happiness at work. Something's not working. Now, my clients, following the recipes that I've written about in these different books, we've had, on average, across our client base, 91% employee engagement. So we kind of cracked the code on some things that actually work. You just got to help companies figure out how to put them into practice.
I also saw that your employees, your clients show up on the top list of best places to work.
Yeah, in addition to 91% employee engagement, and that's across 20 different industries. In addition to that, nearly 70% of our client base over the last decade has been on a best places to work list, either in their region or their industry, or on the Fortune 100 best places to work list.
Wow. Now, that is your second book, which was a New York bestseller. Would you give us the name of your second book, please, Gregg?
It's called Engaged. The one word is engaged. Outbehave the competition to create customers for life. And in the Engaged book, I give away all the secrets. And if you go to gregglederman.com, what's kind of cool about my website is at gregglederman.com, if you look under books and you choose Engaged, off to the right-hand side are all the consulting materials that we use with our clients. All the downloadable guides and things like that are all there from the book. And makes it really easy for people to either take it and have, work the system, work the consulting themselves, or of course you can always outsource that.
Okay. Now, obviously we can't give it all away. We want people to go to gregglederman.com and purchase the book, obtain the book, but please give us some highlights of something that you can tell us, because employee retention, especially in 2019, is one of the things that I think a lot of companies suffer from.
Yeah, if I hear this term war for talent, one more time, I'm going to pull the hair out of my head. I'm really tired of talking about it, to be honest, but it really is out there. My most recent book that came out last fall, it's called Crave. You can enhance employee motivation in 10 minutes by Friday. The Crave methodology is a summary that I've pulled together over 80 years of research. It basically says there's 3 things that people crave, and if we give it to them, they're going to be happier, more motivated, and more successful at work. Those 3 things are respect. So respect me for who I am and what I do. Purpose, a sense of purpose, which really is showing people that they have relevance and impact, and that what they do makes a difference. And then the third is relationship, in particular relationship with my supervisor, manager, my boss. And the 10 minutes by Friday method is a way of a 3-step process for making sure that within 10 minutes every week, you take the time to stop and share a success of someone living your values, demonstrating your hospitality experience, doing something that brings your focus area in your business and your financial results to life. And I give you a 3-step process for doing that can easily be done a couple times a week in 10 minutes or less. And when you do that, you're fueling the environment with what people crave, and you drive up engagement. And that's why our client base has had 3 times the amount of engagement than the national average. We can't point to anything else they've been doing differently than other organizations over the past decade or so. The one thing they've been doing different is mastering this habit of 10 minutes by Friday.
No, I love it. It sounds wonderful, especially 10 minutes, because business owners like myself, we already are inundated with things to do. Our schedule
Yep.
is overbooked. We have so much. So even if you said, okay, I can give you all the areas, but you have to sit down in this 2 month study or this 2 hour class, I really just don't have the time for it. So I'm really interested in the 10 minutes. And I do have a couple of questions myself, but again, we have quite a few people who are watching this Facebook Live. I just want to extend the offer again. We do have Mr. Gregg Lederman speaking to us live. He is live right now. So if you have any questions about employee engagement, about his book, or about any questions that you may have, we have quite a few people. Good afternoon, Tracy, Robert, Mickey, Kathy, Joseph. So many people are in the chat room. But again, my whole point of bringing you Ask Sharifah is for you to be able to ask your questions, not just to watch the videos, but you have Gregg Lederman in front of you live right now. So ask your questions, because if not, I am going to go ahead and take care of this opportunity, and you can just listen, because Ask Sharifah is going to ask her questions. So Gregg, I listened to everything that you said, and I understand exactly what you said. I agree with everything that you said as far as the 3 items, the respect, but then I've also had certain conversations with people, or heard conversations, panelists, discussions where people say, no matter what you do, the time of loyal longevity is a bygone era. Employees do not expect to stay at a company for 20 years. They do not expect to retire from a company. They gave up on the gold pen, the gold watch. A lot of companies don't have anything that incentivizes them, gives them health benefits or anything like that. What would you say to that? How would you respond to that?
I'd say in most cases they're wrong. What they've done is they've given up on thinking about employee recognition as a managerial skill that needs to be taught, needs to be learned, practiced, and perfected to make it a habit. So what's happening is we're moving away from the humanistic side of work, right? You can focus on performance and humanity. The best focus on both. They have their results driven at work, but they bring in the humanistic side. It's the human condition to want to feel respected, understand the purpose of my work, and to have good relationships at work. The challenge is a leadership challenge. We have a dearth of leadership that understands that what this 10 minutes by Friday concept is a learned managerial skill. It's not about just telling people, nice things because we want to make them feel good. No, it's about strategically recognizing people in a way that fuels the environment with this craving, and then it drives a connection to the organization. But it all starts with leaders. And if leaders don't master this habit, then you're right, the loyalty to the company tends to be quite a bit less. And here's the thing that's interesting. In the book, I write about 10 minutes by Friday, but I make a point to say, you pick the Friday. I mean, we have data to show if you can get managers to do it even monthly, just once a month, you take the 10 minutes to actually do a really strong recognition of people living the values, whether that's writing a note and mailing it to someone's home, whether that's going online in your social recognition platform or doing some form of recognition. When our clients over the last decade have gotten their managers to at least do once a month, amazing business results happen. Quality improves, customer scores go up, safety incidents go down, healthcare costs go down, employee turnover goes down, absenteeism goes down, which means overtime pay goes down. I mean, we've been monetizing these results with clients for over a decade. It's remarkable. But all it takes is management's commitment to 10 minutes by Friday. And when they don't do that, those business results tend to not improve in any kind of sustainable way.
That's excellent information. We do have at least a statement from the comments. Tracy is requesting that if you would repeat those 3 steps. I think they're taking notes, or those 3 aspects.
So there's 3 things, Tracy, that make up the CRAVE methodology. And again, social scientists, researchers, and scholars have been studying motivation in the workplace all the way back into the 1930s, 1935. To present day. There's been literally 1,000+ studies done. And I feature many really cool ones actually in the beginning of the book. What I did is I summarized 80 years of research on what humans have been telling researchers. This is what causes me to be motivated. 1 is respect. Treat me with respect. Show me that you respect me for who I am and what I do. Number 2, purpose. Show me that I have a sense of purpose, that my work is impactful, that there's some relevance to what I do, that a robot won't be doing this in 6 months from now. And then third is relationship, in particular relationship with my boss. Now, Sharifah, to build on what we were saying earlier, that when I refuted the other person's comment that people are just not loyal to companies, no, they're not loyal to their managers. That's the issue. This is a leadership problem. So regarding that third crave item of relationship, 75% of people, the research tells us, say their number one stress at work is their boss.
Right. Absolutely.
2/3 of people, I saw a study last year, 2/3 of people in America say they'll take a new boss over a pay raise. Mm-hmm. So this isn't people aren't loyal to their companies. No, there's crappy managers out there that aren't demonstrating appreciation in a very strategic way. Mm-hmm. Now, Tracy might be referring to, if she's read Crave, she might be referring to the 3 steps to recognition that I cover. Like in the book, I tell you exactly how to do 10 minutes by Friday, really strategically, really well. And there's the 3 steps to doing a recognition well. And that first step is tell the action that somebody did. Mm-hmm. Second, you have to link it to a focus area, whether it's your core values or your brand message in some way. So you tell specifically what they did, you link it to a focus area, and you third must share the impact. How does that improve quality? Does it improve our customer loyalty? Does it improve our workplace culture? We have to say what the impact is and give them the why behind how what they did was important. So don't just say, hey, Sharifah, thanks for double checking that paperwork and getting it back to the client. That's nice to do, but it's not strategic. Better to say, Sharifah, great job double checking that paperwork. That's a great example of customer service excellence, and it instills confidence in our clients so that they feel better about what they're buying from us, and then they end up buying more and more often. I said what you did, I linked it to a focus area, and I told the benefit, and I just made that up off the top of my head.
Of course.
But every company's got these core values and message, and who we are as a company, and everybody's got business results they're tracking to. So you got to learn how to recognize people strategically, linking it to the values and linking it to the business results.
That's wonderful, Gregg. Thank you for answering Tracy's question. Tracy, I do hope that answered your question. Again, we have a few more people who are joining us in the chat room. If you have any questions, Gregg Lederman is live right now, so feel free to ask your questions and I'll ask Gregg. And again, while you're doing that, I'll go ahead and ask another question of my own. One of the things that you mentioned, and again, if I understood you correctly, is you mentioned recognizing on socially. I don't see companies who recognize employees on social media or publicly. Is that something you would advise or something that you teach?
Yeah, not necessarily social media in an external way, but for instance, that Reward Gateway, the company that acquired Brand Integrity, they bought us, and we had a social recognition platform for inside of an organization, and we have a fantastic one at Reward Gateway as well. So you can log in. It's more of an intranet inside your organization. Our platform integrates into anybody else's platform. So if any of the listeners are out there don't have a social recognition platform but want one, check out rewardgateway.com or just simply email me and I can get them connected. But very easy to set up a social recognition platform within your own workspace so that you're sharing those best practices and you're sharing those appreciations in a way that others can learn from it, and you can fuel the environment even more so with what people crave, the respect, purpose, and relationship.
Wow, I'm glad, even though I was incorrect, I'm glad that that's why I always ask, knowledge is power, because I did misunderstand you, but I've never heard, I've heard terms of intranet, obviously internet, intranet, internal programs for a company to be able to share their internal information, but I've never, ever heard the term social recognition platform. What is your recommendation as far as creating a social recognition platform?
In today's day and age, I can't imagine a company not either thinking about installing such a system or having one, because if you think about it, the youngest generation coming into the workplace right now, we're almost at 50% millennials who expect collaboration with technology in a workplace. And Gen Z, and this is all in my Crave book, I have a whole bit on, on the research on the 4 generations together. Generation Z's coming in with 72 million kids are going to enter the workforce in the next 10 years. 72 million, and 91% of them say that the technological sophistication of a company will impact their decision on whether or not to work there.
Oh, wow.
91%. Okay. So if you think in the next 5 to 10 years, you're not going to have a social recognition platform inside your organization, then I don't know where you're going to get your workforce from, because people are demanding that type of communication engine inside of an organization.
Okay.
Again, people definitely check out Reward Gateway's got a really unbelievable. One of the reasons that I decided to partner with them was their communication platform was the strongest communication platform I've ever seen.
I love it. I'm definitely going to check it out. Rewards Gateway, definitely interested in it. Again, we're coming down to the end of the interview. We only have a few minutes, and I'm going to talk a little bit more to Mr. Gregg Lederman about his book. So I have a few more questions. But again, I just want to make sure everyone understands that this is an opportunity to ask your questions. That's why I'm providing this platform. So if you're in the chat room, please don't just watch. Ask Mr. Lederman your questions. He is wonderful. He's more than happy to answer them. But the time is now, because everyone else is going to watch the recording and they're going to see it in the archives and they're going to learn everything that you're learning, but they are not going to have the opportunity to ask their questions. So again, if you have a question, let me know. So again, I'll go back to my questions, because we definitely have people tuning in. We have people watching and they're learning, but sometimes they just like to look and listen. Gregg, this is my question for you. Your new book, which is Crave. As an entrepreneur who just published their book, and a lot of people, because I published my book, are asking me the same thing. What are some ways that you would recommend as far as getting some, things you have to do as far as getting your book out there?
Well, I tell you, it's a crowded market space. I think when I did my first book in 2007, there were 11,000 plus business books written that year. And so it's a crowded market space. And I'm pretty sure there's more books today written than there was even 10, 12 years ago when my first book came out.
Absolutely.
The number one way I get it out there is through my speaking. Every week I'm somewhere at a conference or an association or doing private events for companies and speaking on leadership, engagement, or the customer experience. And that drives book sales. I mean, that basically is it. Amazon has monopolized the whole book space, in my opinion. That's where I send people to go. I don't sell it on my website. There's no point in doing that. You can get it even more efficiently at Amazon. So if you just search my name and Crave, it comes right up on Amazon. But it's not easy, and you have to have a really good book. And you know what the other thing is? I think it needs to be a short book in today's day and age. My first 2 books were about 80,000 words, just to put it in perspective. My goal with Crave was to be at 40,000 words and not a word over. And we stuck to that pretty much. I mean, we wrote a book, it was half the length, and it was much more difficult to do that, because you got to pick and choose what's going to be the most important content. And a lot of people write books and no one really wants to read them because they're not that interesting. So you got to make sure you have a really good message to share in the marketplace. People come to me and like, I want to write a book. I want to write a book. And you know what my question to them is, Sharifah?
What?
Does anybody want to read your book?
I don't know. That's the question I'm going to ask. Does anyone want to read my book? We have all the people in the chat room. Do you want to read my book? That's what I want to know. Answer that question. Give me a yes. Give me a no. Give me some kind of feedback, since y'all sitting there watching a live interview. So I just wanted to ask that question.
I always ask them, does anyone want to read your book? And that doesn't mean you don't write it. But just know, if people don't want to read it, then it can be a really cathartic process for you to write a book, which is great. Go do it, but just don't expect a lot of people to buy your book, because last I saw, it was only about 2% of business books ever sell 3,000 copies.
Wow,
2%.
When I get to 3,001, I'm gonna email you, Gregg. I'm gonna say I made it to 3,001. I'm on my way.
If you get to within 100 copies, email me. I'll buy the next 100 for you. All right. I don't want you to.
Done. Y'all heard it here. We have it recorded. Gregg is about to buy 100 of my new book, Signs You Might Be an Entrepreneur, How to Discover the Entrepreneur in You. So I wanted to get that out there, but I did want to go back to you because, again, this is your interview. And one of the things that you said very early on, I wanted to ask you about, when we were discussing whether or not companies believe about the employee engagement as opposed to if they know how, which is what you said, they may not know how. When business owners come to you, how do you make them understand that it's important? Not just the steps, not just what, but sometimes is that resistance to taking the time, taking the energy to make them want to do it. How do you make them aware that this is something that's at the forefront, especially if you want to remove turnover, get employee retention? How do you make that connection?
You're hitting on it right there. I always focus on results. So pick an industry. Tell me any industry that's on your mind.
Marketing. Is that an industry? I said it's marketing. Is that an industry?
Okay, sure. So professional services.
Professional services.
Talking to a professional services organization. Let's say it's a big ad agency. I would talk to them about client retention. Okay, so then what are the things your people do that drive client retention? Are you recognizing those things enough? Right? What else do they care about? They care about billable rates, right? They want to know that their realization rates are real, that we bill for $10,000 of work, but if the client complains, we have to only bill for $8,000. We only realized $8,000. So they care about realization rates. Okay, so what are things people do in your organization that help improve realization rates? Those are the things you need to strategically recognize people for. So we put in a whole recognition philosophy and methodology, all centered around accelerating results. 50% of the Crave book is focused on accelerating results, how strategically recognizing people will drive business results. A third of the book, the last third of the book, is all focused on how do you make it a habit. So I put in a 5-step process for how you can make any behavior change habitual. Because if you don't teach managers how to make it a habit, they simply don't do it very well, if at all.
Now, one of the things that you said, and I'm going to quote you on this, so hopefully I'm correct, is that there are some crappy managers out there, that there are some bosses out there that just, you would rather just leave your job than have to work with those bosses. How do you get that boss to understand, aside from retention, aside from the employees, how do you get that boss to understand that they are crappy? I mean, because I've had some bosses, managers who, I wanted to pull my hair out and, they took away my freedom. They took away my authority. They were micromanaging. They were standing over me. But you can't say, look, dude, go away. How do you make them make that connection?
Well, as opposed to making them feel like or trying to raise awareness to their deficiencies as a leader. Instead, I try to inspire them on something simple they can do to become a more effective and trusted leader.
Okay.
Right. So I go into an organization tomorrow. I'll be heading out to a company tomorrow, speaking in front of 75 or 80 of their top leaders. I'm not there with a message that managers aren't good managers. I'm there with, do you want to be a more effective and trusted leader? Do you see opportunity to grow as a leader? Okay, great. And then I ask the question, how many of you, show of hands, do not like to be recognized when you do a good job? And how many hands do you think go up? Almost none. Then the next question I ask them is, raise your hands if you do a really good job recognizing your people for doing good work and you do that often enough. And I'll get at the most 10%, 20% maximum of the hands will go up. So it'll leave 80 to 90% of the room is saying, I don't do that enough.
Right.
So by then I say, okay, now I'm going to introduce you to the 10 minutes by Friday way of recognizing people. Because the reason that we have the energy crisis that we've had for the past 2 decades is because we don't recognize our people enough.
Right.
So I inspire them with the opportunities to actually become a more effective and trusted leader. And you only need to spend 10 minutes a week. That's it. And it's all about results. Getting back to your last question, Sharifah, it's all about, this company's a manufacturing company. It's about inventory turns. It's about machine uptime. It's about less product defects, right? It's all the things that they have on their scorecard need to improve. So let's recognize people for when they're doing things that drive our scorecard, as opposed to, criticizing people every time they don't do something right. Ken Blanchard said it best. If you want to teach a dog to sit, you don't hit it every time it doesn't sit.
Right.
right? So this, I'm just building off of that type of thinking to say, make it about the positive things people are doing at work. And if we do that, we can make the world a better place to work, one company at a time.
I love it. I love your attitude. It's so positive. You take the negative, turn it into a positive, and you inspire people. Wonderful interview. I definitely want to thank you for your time. But what I do at the end of every show is I allow my guests the opportunity to really speak to our viewers and let them know what you want them to take away from your interview. So I'm just going to give you the floor for a few moments.
Yeah, I would just say, look, everybody listening in here, whether you are a manager or aspire to be a manager, you have the power to fuel the work environment with what people crave: respect, purpose, and relationship. And you can do that by just taking 10 minutes every week, no more than that, 10 minutes to stop, recognize the success that you're seeing, and share that in a productive way. Again, whether that's in an online social platform, whether you're simply writing a thank you note, whether you're just calling the person or emailing them to tell them appreciation and thanks. And in my book, Crave, there's 9 different ways, a couple high impact and a couple low impact ways that you can do that. And I make it really, really easy. And again, they can get that on Amazon. They can also go to gregglederman.com, and in the tab at the top, it says Ultimate Habit. That's the 10 minutes by Friday. If they click that, they can download the worksheet right there. You don't have to add in your email. You don't have to give me any information. It's literally there for free. You can download the worksheet on how to make 10 minutes by Friday a habit. It's pre-populated with all the best techniques and approaches that have worked for the leaders that have put this into practice and driven unbelievably high engagement levels in their organization.
Wow, that is wonderful. And the word free, you're giving it away for free. Who does that? I have never in my life, I have seen free ebooks. I mean, don't get me wrong, but to have a published book available on Amazon and you're giving the content and the information available completely free on your website, that's wonderful. So I hope that all of our viewers definitely go ahead and share this interview. Let your friends know that they too can get this information from this interview on gregglederman.com. And to all our viewers, I want to thank you for tuning in, but please go ahead and share this interview because friends don't let friends miss out on Ask Sharifah. And Gregg, thank you. Thank you for giving us, it's almost been about an hour now of your time that you gave us to be able to give away this information. So thank you for being a guest today.
Thanks for having me, Sharifah. It's a pleasure.
You are so welcome. Everyone, if you're interested in watching more of my interviews or you're interested in being a guest, please visit the website at AskSharifah.com. Until then, everyone have a wonderful day.